Amal and George, through the Clooney Foundation for Justice, have just filed a lawsuit against the Archewell Foundation, the charity run by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. This was not a warning letter, not private mediation, but a lawsuit, and the accusations are direct. False endorsement, implied partnership, unfair competition, donor diversion. That is legal language for something very simple. You used our name, our reputation, and our credibility to raise your own money. This is not celebrity drama. This is paperwork with serious consequences. Because lawsuits like this are not filed unless the evidence is already organized, labeled, and dated. No one with Amal Clooney's legal background walks into federal court hoping for good feelings and sympathy. They walk in with proof. And the moment this case was filed, the illusion cracked. The illusion many people had that Hollywood charity work is one big friendly alliance of good intentions. Because in reality, behind the smiling galas and Instagram captions, this was always competition, and now it is a war on record. Let's start from the beginning of this situation so you can understand it clearly. So, Hollywood charity work runs on perception, not results, not measurements. Perception, who you stand next to, whose jet you are seen on, whose logo appears near yours, even if no contract was ever signed. And that is the game Archewell entered the moment Harry and Meghan arrived in California. They did not arrive quietly. They arrived carrying legacy, royal closeness, media attention, and elite access. And for a while, it worked very well. They were photographed with the Clooneys. They stayed at Clooney properties. George Clooney publicly defended Meghan, comparing her treatment to Princess Diana. That comparison alone carried huge weight, because when George Clooney speaks, donors listen. And when Amal Clooney is nearby, legitimacy is assumed. And this is where the problem starts. In charity work, assumption is currency. No one really needs to say we are partners if everyone already believes it. No press release has to lie openly. It just has to suggest it, a logo here, a phrase there, a name placed in the right paragraph. That is not accidental. That is strategy. And according to this lawsuit, Archewell knew exactly what it was doing. Because when donors believe two powerful groups are aligned, they give money faster and ask fewer questions. The first warning signs did not come from headlines. They came from emails. By 2022, donors attending Archewell-related events started asking a strange question. So, how are you and the Clooney Foundation working together on this? There was only one problem. They were not. No agreement, no collaboration, no joint campaign. Yet Archewell materials were circulating that sounded like partnerships existed. CFJ initiatives were mentioned casually. At one fundraiser, Archewell handed out materials that name-dropped Clooney Foundation work, as if it were shared work. Donors assumed collaboration. They usually do, because no one expects a foundation to be bold enough to imply an alliance without permission. But that assumption is exactly what this lawsuit says Archewell exploited. By 2023, archived versions of Archewell's website listed the Clooney Foundation for Justice as a like-minded organization in global justice campaigns. No consent, no approval, no statement that this was not a partnership, just closeness used as a tool. Inside Clooney Foundation circles, tolerance turned into alarm, because this was not just about branding. This was about damage to credibility. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. Let's be clear about one thing. The Clooney Foundation for Justice did not file this lawsuit to make noise. They filed it to stop something. This case is not wrapped in emotional language or celebrity complaints. It is cold, it is technical, and it is serious. False endorsement under the Lanham Act. Unfair competition. Market deception. That is not tabloid law. That is high-level corporate litigation. The filing argues that Archewell did not just benefit from confusion, it created it through visual closeness, copied language, and strategic silence. Donors were led to believe they were supporting a united global justice effort. And here's the part that changes everything. The Clooney Foundation did not send a cease and desist letter. They did not ask for quiet fixes. They did not call in favors. They filed a lawsuit. Because by the time this reached Amal Clooney's desk, it could no longer be fixed with edits and apologies. It had become provable harm. Emails, metadata, donor statements, trademark records. This lawsuit is not guesswork. It is precise. And when a foundation led by one of the world's most respected human rights lawyers chooses to go public, it is because staying silent has become more dangerous than speaking out. Let's stop avoiding it. This lawsuit exists because money moved. High net worth donors, tech leaders, entertainment power figures, and corporate sponsors began shifting funds. Why? Because they believed Archewell was working with the Clooney Foundation for justice. Not nearby, not inspired by, but aligned. One donor statement explains it clearly. A 7-figure pledge was redirected after attending an event where Archewell banners placed CFJ logos nearby, visually suggesting approval. Another donor received Archewell requests that referenced shared justice leadership and language donors reasonably understood as pointing to George and Amal Clooney. By the time CFJ corrected this privately, the money was already gone. Financial tracking cited in the lawsuit shows a 15% drop in CFJ pledges, directly linked to overlapping campaigns and donor outreach. This is why the claim is not emotional, it is financial. False endorsement under the Lanham Act is not about hurt feelings. It is about market deception. And in this space, credibility is the product. Archewell did not need to outperform CFJ. They only needed to stand close enough to absorb the reputation. And according to the filings, that is exactly what happened. Hollywood does not cancel loudly. It pulls away quietly. No invitations, no mentions, no returned calls. And once this lawsuit became public, the distancing that had been whispered about for years suddenly made sense. The Sussexes were not just facing a legal problem. They were facing social isolation. They were clearly absent from the Albee Awards, the Clooney Foundation's main event honoring real justice work. That absence was not accidental. It was intentional. George Clooney, once publicly supportive of Meghan Markle, had already changed years earlier. By 2023, his infamous "I don't know her" moment showed something had broken. Behind closed doors, elite donors began asking new questions, not about causes, but about trust. And trust is everything. Powerful donors do not want drama tied to their charity work. They want stability, privacy, and clarity. This lawsuit brought uncertainty into Archewell's brand, the worst possible outcome in donor-driven spaces. Meanwhile, the Clooneys moved differently. They strengthened long-standing institutional ties. They appeared at respected charity events. They aligned upward, not outward. This was not about choosing sides emotionally. It was about choosing who could survive scrutiny of reputation, and Hollywood made that choice quietly. This lawsuit sends a message that cannot be misunderstood. You do not get to borrow institutional credibility without permission. You do not get to blur boundaries when money is involved, and you do not get to use closeness as a shield for unclear operations. Donors are watching this case closely, because if false endorsement can quietly move millions, then trust itself becomes unstable. And that is why this case matters far beyond Harry and Meghan. It forces a reckoning. How many foundations are selling alignment instead of results? How many causes are weakened by branding tricks? How often has inspired by, crossed into, copied from? This lawsuit does not just expose it threatens a system that survives on uncertainty. There is a phrase lawyers understand better than anyone. Paper remembers what people try to forget. This story started with borrowed jets, borrowed access, borrowed closeness. But it did not end there, because borrowed power, when unchecked, always demands payment, sometimes in money, sometimes in reputation, and sometimes in a courtroom. The Clooney Foundation for Justice did not raise its voice. It raised its standards. And when those standards were crossed, it responded the only way institutions do when credibility is threatened, with records, rules, and consequences. As 2026 moves forward, discovery is coming. Emails will appear. Boardroom talks will be examined. Choices once described as branding will be judged as intent. Settlements may happen. Apologies may be written. But something permanent has already occurred. The illusion is gone. Celebrity charity work has been forced to face itself, and the image is unfiltered. For Harry and Meghan, this lawsuit is not just a legal fight. It is a judgment on their life after royalty. For the Clooneys, it is a boundary drawn, not in anger, but in principle. And for everyone watching, this is a reminder that truth does not trend, it files. And discovery has not even started yet.